Hi, Ryan. Welcome. I'm going to start with you. In one of your papers and today, you referenced Jim Balsillie, who warned you can't commercialize what you don't own, and Canada doesn't own much. A reality underscored by your paper's findings that over 87% of Canada's innovation and foreign-owned, driven by Liberal policies such as high taxes, regulatory burdens, and a failure to protect publicly funded IP, leaving Canada once again last in the G7 for R&D investment and commercialization. Where global competition, innovation, and technology, especially in Kitchener Centre, where I'm from, is critical as it's now one of our largest impacts economically, do you agree that the government's policy failures have severely undermined Canada's ability to compete globally? And what can we do to reverse course?
Thank you very much. And I certainly do. I think, Canada is not living up to its potential. Certainly when we're giving away our IP willingly, we're losing jobs, we're losing on GDP, we're losing on wealth for Canadians and for Canada as a whole. And let's be honest, this is a great country. We want to have world-class talent here, and we do. We have some great companies that are in Canada, but certainly the reality, the numbers that are there point a different story, and they're certainly fixable. The government can change this, and that's by changing our sovereignty. I'm going to give you one example. I gave the $4.4 billion that we've spent on AI, of which 75% is foreign-owned, but we also spend a lot of money with battery research, and one of those is Tesla. And in Dalhousie University, the provincial and federal governments have both given money for research to that university, but few Canadians understand that in that example for Tesla, 100% of that IP in Dalhousie goes to Dartmouth, which is a partnership they have, and it goes back to Tesla. So we hold none of that research in that university. And one other example was we had an Ontario company that we gave $2 million to called Hibar. It was also bought from Tesla and taken out of the country. So again, back to my recommendation, we have to establish sovereignty, that if we have public funds going into IP and research in Canada, we must make the best attempts to hold the IP in Canada, make sure that it's really hard to remove that IP, and third, that when we have that commercialization, that goes to Canadian companies, or we retain a portion of that IP.
Thank you. I agree that we have amazing companies here in Canada, especially in Kitchener Centre, where I'm from. I proudly declare us Canada's innovation capital because of all of our innovation and technology coming from there. I just want to quickly mention the $4.4 billion again in AI investment, but 75% of that is now gone overbroad to companies not here in Canada. So our public tax dollars are funding, as you said, the futures of someone else. What specific competition-focused policies could reverse Liberal oversight, incentivize private investment, and prevent IP leakage to ensure our youth that are driving our innovation, as well as our next workforce, have a bright future here in Canada?
Well, I appreciate the question. Thank you. And this is why I included in it. Why is competition in IP and data sovereignty? Well, it's because competition in Canada is stopping research and development. When we look at companies in the U.S., when you look at the revenues and what percentage of their revenues are they spending on R&D, it's 2%. And in Canada, especially with banking and with financial services and digital technology, it's only 0.5%. And why? Well, because there's no competition. When companies are under the guise of competition or they have competitors, they're going to spend more to outcompete because they have that pressure. And in Canada, we don't have it. And the example I've pushed really hard for here in Parliament is open banking. We have 5 financial institutions or banks in Canada that control 85% of the banking assets in Canada. But if we enact open banking and allow Canadians to have financial freedom and able to move from one bank to another, we're going to unleash fintechs, financial tech organizations in Canada. We're going to allow innovation as a whole. We're going to move that 0.5% to 2% in Canada, which is alone going to transfer a tremendous amount of IP and R&D into Canadian hands because it's Canadian institutions. And guess what? Because there's 4,000 banks in America and there's only 6 in Canada, when open banking will be enacted in Canada, where it's not also all the way enacted in the U.S., we're going to be able to attract some of that investment here in Canada as well.
Thank you very much. You also...
15 seconds left.
Okay, I'm just going to very quickly ask. Your paper also says that there's barriers to venture capitalism. So I agree that we're very good at educating and incubating, but then our venture capitalism is not here in Canada. You'll have to probably write this answer. I'd like to know what policies need to be reversed, specifically tax policies to drive venture capitalism here in Canada.